It looks like Andrew Jackson, British at New Orleans. And this one is another Andrew Jackson becoming president. What's up, everyone? Tiger Stacker here. Today we're going to talk about something all of us have an opinion on. Some of us are frightened by it. Some of us are not. Confiscation. Confiscation of gold, silver, our money, our wealth. Desperate countries do desperate things. And the more desperate they get, the more desperate their actions become. But we're also going into a digital age, whether we like it or not. Cryptocurrency, central bank digital currency, CBDCs. Are we happy about it? Some are, some are not. Not having the wisdom of Solomon or the omnipotence of God, we have to look to the past to anticipate the future. The United States has had several notable episodes of confiscation of gold. I'm going to talk about 4 of them. We all know about the confiscation in 1933 with Executive Order 6102 by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And he had the people sell their silver to the government for $20.67, only to a year later increase the rate of gold to $35. Then 1 year later, he signed Executive Order 6814 on August 9th, 1934, in order to confiscate silver, allegedly to get more silver for coinage. From my understanding of history, people learned their lesson from what happened with the gold, and less of them were willing to work with the silver confiscation. Executive Order 6102 was reversed in 1974 by President Gerald R. Ford, giving the right of the citizen to own gold again, which is returning to the Constitution of Article 1, Section 10, saying that no state shall produce anything but gold and silver coin for the payment of debt. Once again, thank you, President Ford, for returning this to the people. But during the time of President Roosevelt, only certain people are allowed to keep the gold. Dentists, jewelers, and people who were collecting pre-1933. But there were other confiscations. In the Civil War, which lasted between 1861 and 1864, gold was physically confiscated and gold clauses were invalidated. What is a gold clause? A gold clause is a contract provision that requires payment to be made in gold, a specific coin, or a U.S. dollar amount measured in gold. Gold clauses were common in contracts, bonds, mortgages at the beginning of the 20th century. However, they are now considered void. The Gold Clause of Joint Resolution 1933 and Gold Reserve Act 1934 invalidated the use of gold clauses. The resolution declared that the provisions requiring payment in gold were against public policy and required payment to be made in current legal tender. The Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of this resolution in 1935. Congress later made gold clauses enforceable again for contracts issued under October 28, 1977. However, the Treasury's Department view is that the Gold Clause joint resolution continues to apply even after the restrictions on private ownership were lifted in 1974. That was by President Ford. And for those of you who are interested in more in what happened between President Roosevelt and President Ford, I have a video on that. I ask you to go check it out. Before I continue, I also want to point out that there are other forms of confiscation. Inflation is a form of confiscation. Other countries are mandating that gold miners deliver 20% of their proceeds to the individual governments at the rate of the current currency, another form of confiscation. Confiscation can come in many forms. But let us continue with the 4 that I've picked out for you. In 1971, Richard Nixon suspended the Bretton Woods, making the U.S. dollar non-redeemable for gold, another form of confiscation, separating gold from the currency in order for what President Nixon stated was to make the dollar stronger. It subsequently gave us faster rates of inflation. And if you don't believe it, go look at the Fred, which I have described very well in this video, while I also compared it to history, most notably with the Roman currency. But if you look at it, when the Bretton Woods took over, when Nixon separated the dollar from gold completely, how fast our currency devalued. So go see this video. One of the most notable episodes of confiscation happened in the War of 1812, where gold clauses were invalidated and mints were closed. The War of 1812 was a conflict that happened between the United States and Great Britain, primarily sparked by the British practices like the imprisonment of American soldiers and restriction on American trade, leading to the young American Republic declaring war on Great Britain in 1812. It was also considered the secondary American Revolution. It also caused the American public to take pride in their country. Early American naval successes showed that the USS Constitution won many victories and earned the nickname Old Ironsides. British invasion of Washington, D.C. and burning down the White House. And the most notable battles was the Battle of New Orleans, led by Andrew Jackson. No, not led by the paper fiat currency, but led by two-star Major General Andrew Jackson, who was too young to fight in the Revolutionary War, but did an amazing job in the War of 1812, particularly at the Battle of New Orleans. This man was renowned for his courage. I bought a coin at the coin shop in Lubbock, Texas, while visiting Ringmaster Ray. I collect precious metals that have prominent members of our history, most particularly presidents, and I want to share that moment with you.
We have a few more cool sterling pieces. I heard you like some president.
I love anything with presidents, even the ones I don't like. So this one here, it looks like Andrew Jackson, British at New Orleans. It tells the history of January 8, 1815. How about that? I'll take that for sure. And this one is another Andrew Jackson becoming president. He was a force to be reckoned with. He didn't want the banks involved in our currency, tried to keep them out. They eventually found their way in. He's probably rolling over in his grave.
Like Jefferson?
Yeah. Yes, Andrew Jackson didn't want our currency to be manipulated by the banks. How right he was. And he also lived through war that had gold confiscation. What an amazing man and an amazing president. Andrew Jackson was also noted for marrying Rachel Donaldson, who was first married to Louis Robards in Nashville in 1785 and left him in 1790 after he became abusive and alcoholic. She then later married Andrew Jackson in 1791. He loved her very dearly and was known to protect her honor, because in those days, divorce was much more controversial than what it is now. And during Andrew Jackson's run for presidency, many of his political enemies used her prior marriage against her for Jackson's campaigns of 1824 and 1828, calling her both an adulterer and a bigamist, which was a severe attack at those days on her. And Andrew Jackson was involved in well over 100 duels. The most notable one was Charles Dickinson for publicly insulting his wife, calling her a bigamist. During that duel, Dickinson fired first and hit Jackson in the chest, but Jackson managed to return fire. At first, his gun did not fire, but after the second attempt, he killed Dickinson. Talk about a man who understands the passion of love, both for wife and for country. So these are only 4 out of many confiscations, both in our country and outside of our country, throughout years. Desperate countries do desperate things, and the people usually suffer. Currently, we have no orders of confiscation, and I'm not sure this will happen. Some of you believe that they will not come after collectibles. Some of you think they will. Some of you think that they won't come after any because it's too easy to go after the digital. I personally spread my stacking amongst American government recognized old stuff. I love constitutional gold and constitutional silver because it reminds me of my grandfather. And maybe I'll be saving myself the headache of a confiscation. But always keep in mind, desperate countries do desperate things. So what are you doing to protect your gold and silver? Are you stacking it? Are you stacking it well? Are you hiding it well? And what's your plan when SHTF hits. We're going through some rough times this year, and I don't think it's going to stop. It might get better, but it's not going to stop. Take care of your families. Take care of your wealth that you've so worked hard for to earn and have to keep. I hope to have a video with a very well-known stacker in the future, a teacher, and I'll give you a hint, my first teacher. I'm working very hard to get that teacher to come and do an interview with me. So I hope you'll all be there for that. Hope to see you then and in the next one. Tiger Stacker is out.